Hello everyone, this is Sirisha, working as an intern at Godspeed. So in this video, I would like to give a quick understanding about how we use on-error in Godspeed projects. So it is similar to try and catch blocks in any programming languages to handle errors. So first we'll go through the structure of on-error, and then we'll have a look at some scenarios and where we use it. We'll go through some of the examples as well. So this is the structure, basic structure of on-error, which you are looking on the screen. So it contains continue, some variables. Continue is the first variable, and log attributes. In that we can specify some variables like what we need to log. And this is the response. We have success, code, and data in it. So this is the basic structure of the on-error. So if we go one by one, continue is the main key in this on-error. So this decides whether to continue with the next task or not. Depends on it. Like if it made to true on the existence of an error with the current task, it will run the next task. Or else if it is set to false, even though it raises an error in the current task, it will return the response from there itself with this response, which we specified in on-error itself. So we can make changes to this response. We can keep success as false, and we can give our custom code and the data as our wish. So this is the role of continue here. So we can make it true or false based on our requirements, whether if we need to continue with the next task, if got an error in the current task, if we need to make it as true, and if we want to exit from the workflow then and there itself, if we got an error in the current task, then we need to make it as false. So coming to log attributes, this is one of the key in on-error. So we will log the attributes. These attributes will be printed in the terminal if we got an error in the current task, executing task. So in this log attributes, we are using OpenTelemetry format of logging errors. So here we have error type and error message. So we can give our custom messages here. So depending on our requirement. So this will be logged when we got an error in the terminal. We can see those errors in the terminal as well by searching it. And coming to response. Response is a object that it will revert. I mean, this will be the response object that will be returned in the case of an error of the current task. So it contains success, code, and data. So this will be the response that will be returned in case of an error. So that will be happen mostly when the continue is set to false. So if it is continue false, then it won't execute the next task. It returns with this custom response, which we specified here. So this is about the structure of on-error. Coming to the cases where we use on-error. It mostly we have only two ways, two cases. We use on-error in workflow level, and we can also use it in the task level as well. So for this, we'll have some examples, and we'll compare those, like how we use in workflow level and task level. So as I told you that on-error is similar to try and catch blocks in JS. So we'll compare a file with this. So here we have a file, JS file. So yeah, this is one of the JS file where we use try and catch for error handling. So yeah, we'll look into the components of this file. So I'm just importing some things that we need in this file. JS status is one of the built-in class of Godspeed, and Axios for to fetch the API. So I'm simply calling this third-party API. This is the URL. So this has two try catch blocks. So this is the try block of the parent level, and this is the corresponding catch block for it, and this is the try catch block for child one. So in the first try block, we are simply fetching the API, and if the API got fetched successfully, if it receives the response, then it goes into the child try block, this one, where I'm taking some inputs and finding whether the item is present or not. So if it is not present, we'll be returning this response with new GS status, and this is how we call this GS status with some variables. Here success, false, and code, and the text that we need to display if the response got failed. So this is the custom response that we'll be sending if we haven't found that particular object in the array of response which we got here. And yeah, so if we got any error, this will be the response. And if we found the item that we are searching in the array of object which we got, this will be the response with the response data. Status code status 200 and success has true. So this is the child level on error handling, and this is the top level, the parent level on error handling. So if we found any error in loading the API, if we found any errors in the first call itself, I mean calling the API itself, so this is the custom response that we'll be sending with status code 500, success, false, and with the workflow error which we specified here. So this is what's happening in this workflow. So I'm just giving this as a reference to remember, so that we can understand on error that we use in Godspeed much better, because we follow the same approach but with some additional features called continue, etc. So we'll go through that examples too. Now we'll hit this API and we'll check. Server is already running on 3008. This accepts some inputs. We'll give this input, which is input ID, and we'll give some random number. So we got the object of that particular ID with status code 200 and OK. So we'll check the false case of the same child task. Again, we'll run this over. Server is running, so we'll give some random number. So we got the custom response which we specified: ID not found, 4 not found, 404 with the not found text. So this is the response that got returned. So this is in task level error handling. This try and catch block got executed. So we'll also have a look at parent level on error handling. So we intentionally give some wrong URL so that they can see whether we are getting the response with the status that we set here or not. So in this case, this is the expected error that should be returned. Server is running. So in this case, already URL is wrong, so we don't need to specify input as well. So yeah, we specified it has 500 internal server error. We got the same response. So this is already known thing for you all. This is how in JS we handle errors using try and catch blocks depending on the requirement with multiple nested try catch blocks. Seen JS file how we use try and catch blocks in JS. We already have an idea about it. So now we'll try to understand it much better by comparing these two files. This is a workflow that we use in Godspeed project, and this is a JS workflow, JS function here. So we'll try to understand it much better by comparing these two files here. So we already know know that we have two try catch blocks with nested things. So in the first one, we are fetching this API with the third party URL which we specified here. For corresponding, we have a catch block, and this is where we are handling errors for the child one. Yeah, so if the child task got failed, this is the response that we'll be getting for the API call. And if the parent task got failed, the overall function got failed, so this is the output that we'll be getting. So this is how we handled error in JS function, this function. So once we come to this YAML workflow, we have in this workflow, we have both workflow level errors and on task level on error handling. In this we have combination of both. So the top one, which is specified here, is workflow level on error handling, and which is specified in between the task is task level on error handling, and this on error is for this particular task which is above. So this workflow overall contains two tasks. This is the top one is the task 1, and this is task 2. So if we want to understand like when the on error of workflow will get executed and when the task level on error will get executed, we mostly have a workflow with multiple tasks. So if we want to know like which task got failed, we need to specify task level on error handling, which we have done here. So which is this. Immediately after the first task, this is the task level on error. So if we specify this, if the task got failed, so this is the custom response that we'll be getting in case of continue set to true in between that subtask. So if continue is set to true, this is the output that we'll be getting the next task. If continue is set to false, this is the custom response that we'll be getting. So yeah, by the keyword itself we understand like whether to continue with the next task on the current task failure or not. So it simply says that continue true will be true, like will be continue with the next workflow. If continue is false, will be returning from there itself with this. So coming to the workflow level on error, we have multiple tasks in a workflow and we have not specified task level on error for any of the tasks in that workflow. If one of the tasks got failed, so this is the response that we'll be getting with status code 500. I mean, whatever the details that we specify for these variables. So this is the custom response in case of that particular task has not any on error specified for it. So in that case only on error of parent level will be called. If not, if task level is specified, so that will be called. So if we compare both of these files, the parent level on error handling, which is highlighted here, is this, the first one. So yeah, which is highlighted in both the files is now the parent level error handling, the workflow level, which means, and this is the task level in YAML file, and this is in JS file. So yeah, the text which is highlighted in both the files is now the task level error handling. So yeah, this is how. And finally, overall for this, if we are using a combination of on error in workflow level and task level, similar to this file, I mean, if you are using a workflow of this kind, the priority goes to on error of task level itself. I mean, the task level on error, if we specify, that is going to execute depending on the continue variable. If it is set to true, it will go to the next task ignoring the current task failure. If it is set to false, it will return the response of this. If on error is not specified at all, this is the response that we'll be getting. So we'll look at this example first. So this is how we declare on error in the workflow level, as we already seen previously. So we have some variables here, response. So this is the custom response that it is going to return when the task got failed. So in this workflow we have only one task. This is the task, and if this task got failed, so we can have multiple tasks. So if any one of the tasks got failed and we haven't specified on error for that particular task, so this is the response that we are going to get. And one more thing, on error in we have a variable called continue. So continue will be default by false, so we'll also include that. So by default continue will be false, so it will not execute next task if any error raises in the current task. So we'll run the server and we'll check the output what we get in this case. Yeah, so server is running, and this in this I'm calling a third-party API using this. So you'll be having good understanding if you go through the documentation how we call third-party APIs. And I'm accepting some. I mean, this API will require like some headers. So this accepts some headers that I'm taking from inputs. So we'll hit this API and we'll check. So server is already running. As I told you, it accepts some headers here. So to check what happens to an error, we need to make it a break, right? It should fail. So I'm intentionally not providing any headers here. So we'll see the output. Yeah, so this is the expected response in this case. So what happened? We are calling this third-party API which accepts some headers. So we intentionally not provided that header, so it should break. So this API got call got failed. So this is the custom response that we need to receive. So we got the same. We received the text as workflow is broken and returned the custom response, and with code 500 internal server error. So you can see the same here. So here we can also add log attributes and check okay, what happening. So we'll also have that here. You can find like where we can see the log attributes if we got an error. We'll enter some text. So we have specified some log attributes here in on error. So these are the messages that will be logged if this code raises an error. So we'll check this again. Server is running. We'll hit the API. Yeah, so API got failed. In this case, we expect this log attribute to be printed here. You can see this object with error type API call got failed and the same, which we mentioned here. So yeah, you can also get your custom messages and make error logging in this case. So this is at workflow level error handling. We'll also look at task level error handling. So this is one of the example for task level error handling, and here we are using COM.js transform. This is one of the inbuilt function of Godspeed. So to intentionally make this API fail, we need to use transform, and we need to specify args in this format so that it will set the response with this variables, with this values. So here on error we have specified in task level for this particular task. So in this workflow we have two tasks, and here we can see a variable called continue. So this is the main key where if we are working with multiple tasks, and if we want to specify in a workflow, and if we want to handle errors, and if we want to ignore errors, we can use continue true and false so that we can handle errors carefully. So yeah, so coming to this workflow, we are using transform with this arc. So this API is this task is going to fail, and we have specified on error for this particular task, and we have specified response with code 400 and error occurred. And this variable we have set it as true here, continue true. So what happens is, if this workflow got failed, and it will go to on error. If the continue is set to true, it will ignore this error. It will continue with the next task which is specified in this workflow. So this is the response that we need to get in this case. So we'll run the server and we'll check. So this is the API that we need to trigger. As continue is set to true, even though we got error in the first task, task 2 got executed, and this is the response that we expected with status code 200 and OK, which is this. And we can also check with false case. So we'll also check with the false case for this thing. Server is already running on 3008. We'll hit the API again. Yeah, you can see the response error occurred and 400 bad request. The response which we specified here, and continue false, after continue false. So this is the response which we received now. So this is with task level error handling. So to get more understanding about this, this is similar to try and catch blocks of JavaScript. So this is the reference JavaScript file we have. So this is one of the scenario of on error in task level and workflow level. So we have combination of this. So we specified on error in workflow level here on the top, and we have some tasks specified. This is task 1 and this is task 2, and we have specified on error for task 1. So what happens in this case? We have specified on error for task level for this particular task, for the first task. So if we haven't specified any on error for task individually, it will trigger the on error of workflow level. If not, if we have specified on error for task level, it will trigger the on error of task level if any error occurred in that particular task. So this is the case. And here we have continued true and false. We have already learned about this in the previous example. So in this example, if continue is set to true, this is the output that we are going to get, and if it is set to false, this is the custom response which we have specified here will be reverted back. So what's the conclusion for this combination is the error handling that we specified in task level will override the on error specified in workflow level in this case. So if we got any error in the task 1, it will immediately go to the on error specified in the task level. So this is one of the scenario, and also we can give tasks in on error. This is one of the example. So here we have in this workflow we have 2 tasks. This is task 1 and this is task 2, and we have specified on error for task 1. And we might have some cases where if we got any error, we need to perform some other different functions. So we can write multiple functions in this on error as well. So this is completely different. Earlier we used a response like if we got any error, we are returning from there with custom response that we can give our status code and text. But in this case, we can perform other function. This is the function that we are going to perform if we got any error in this task 1. So this is one of the scenario. So similar to the sequential functions which we have used just now, we also have parallel case. So in parallel case, all the child tasks will execute parallelly without any delay. So this is the workflow. We have parallel tasks here. So we have 4 parallel tasks. In this also we have on error handling in parent level and on error handling in task level. So what happens, like these 4 tasks will execute one by one. If it raises any error in that particular task, as we already specified on error for that particular task, so on error will trigger and it will exit the workflow from there itself. And if we haven't get any error in that case, I mean in the child task, it will directly give the output in the array format with all the objects of subtasks. So we use on error in parent level in most of the cases. So if we don't specify on error in child task, in for task level on error if we haven't defined, so this will be helpful in that case mostly, because if any of the tasks got failed and we haven't specified on error for that, immediately on error of parent level will be called. So this is the case, and this is how we specify in parallel case on error handling for child and workflow levels. So if we compare the same with the Java script file, this is where we are having some parallel task that we are going to execute. So here is a code snippet that we are resolving the tasks one by one. So we have loaded a module. This is an inbuilt class of Godspeed, and here we are resolving the task. And later I created a variable promises. In that we are storing this child task. So coming to this, so here we are storing all the promises, all the tasks into this promises array. So here while executing the task, each and every task, we are handling errors. So this is child level on error handling, which is this here. So which is highlighted in both the areas. It's the child level on error handling, where we'll give custom response if we got any error with the GS status. So this is how we call a GS status class using these variables. And then if it got executed successfully, then we are going into promises. We are pushing it into promises array with this output, task output. And finally, we also have on error handling in parent level, which is this, which highlighted in both the areas. This is parent level on error handling. We are resolving all the promises at the same time, and then here we are resolving all the promises at the same time, and then we are reverting a response. So if we got any error in that case, we also have catch block for the same for parent level as well. Here we are giving, we are sending response with the new GS status with code 500 and workflow level error, which whatever we got in this parent level workflow. So both the workflows will both the functions will work in the same way. Here also we have parent level and child level on error handling. So the intention behind comparing both the files is just to give a quick understanding, like what is the case if we use it in on error of workflow level and task level. So I hope you understand it much better by seeing this both the files side by side. So this is how on error works in Godspeed with all the project. We have already seen some of the examples, like how we use on error in workflow level and task level. So we also have some other scenarios, like we use on error in parallel and sequential cases also. So parallel and sequential are also one of the inbuilt functions of Godspeed, where in parallel we perform like it have multiple subtasks in a workflow, so they'll be executed parallelly without any delay. So that is what happens in parallel workflows. And in sequential, all the tasks that are in a workflow will execute one by one after the other. So that is how sequential workflows work. So here we have a sample of each sequential workflow, in which we have some subtasks. So here we have a TS file corresponding to the same. So we are going to compare these two files to get good understanding, like how we use on error in these cases, in sequential cases. So first we'll look into this JS file. I'm importing some requirements here, like GS status, which is one of the inbuilt class of Godspeed, which we use to send the response. And here we have a code snippet which is used to resolve the task which we have. And I'm declaring some variables here using response, errors, and number of tasks. Number of tasks is the task number, like these many times the for loop is going to iterate. These many tasks are going to be solved here. And later we have try and catch block. So this is the top level workflow level try block, and we also have the corresponding catch block here. So if any raises in the task level, in the workflow level itself, I mean this level, so this is the catch block that it is going to trigger, and this is the response that will be getting. So this is how we call GS status with the values here. Status false, and code has 500 with the error that we got in workflow level, workflow error, which you can see. So yeah, this is the top one, and the workflow level on error handling, and this one, and this is the child level on error handling, which is inside the for loop. So here we are iterating over every task of this workflow, and we are checking whether if there is any error. So if there is any error with that task, so we are pushing into array of errors with this task number, etc. And if it is not, we are pushing the response data into the response. So if everything goes well, if the errors are 0, then this is the response that we'll be getting with status code 200, success true, and with the response. And if we got errors, so this is the response that will be going to return from here. So correspondingly, if we check with the YAML file, YAML workflow, we have 4 tasks that are going to be executed in this each sequential workflow. So we are iterating over one after the other with these 4 tasks. And for each and every task, we specified on error at task level, which is also commented here. So on error for task level here. And if any error occurred, this is the custom response that it is going to return with the status code 500 got error in the task level and success false, and continues set to false. So it is not going to execute other task if it raises any error in the current task. So this is the task level on error, and the one which you can see corresponding to each sequential function is the workflow level on error. This is the one. So if we get any error in the workflow level, this is the on error that it's going to trigger with the custom response which we have specified here. Caught error in the workflow level with code 500 and success false with continue true. So in these cases, if we get any error in this each sequential workflow, next it is going to execute the second task if have any, because continue is set to true. So if we compare both the files, the workflow level on error, which is this, and in the JS workflow, which is in the top, so which highlighted in both the files is the workflow level on error handling. And if we come to child level, this is the one, and in YAML workflow, this is the one. So yeah, the code snippet which is highlighted in the both files is the child level on error handling in case of sequential workflows. So this is how sequential workflows work. It executes the task one by one. If it got any error in the task level, so we have a custom response that it is going to return. If we got any error in parent level, we also have this custom response that it is going to return. So we also discussed this, like if always the task level on error will override the parent level, the workflow level on error in all the cases, most of the cases, if we have specified for that particular task. So yeah, this is about sequential workflows on error handling. And we have some inbuilt functions in Godspeed. Those are sequential, parallel. Usually the flow of the workflow is sequential. I mean the step-by-step order, one-by-one order. So yeah, It is about some of the types of workflows that we use, and these are the some of the scenarios where we use on error in workflow level and task level. And yeah, thank you so much. Thanks for watching the video.